art therapy, I think are very current for art therapy practice and research. So yeah, I'm just delighted to be here with you. I would like to start with this image. This is the image of my living room. You can actually see it in my background today as well, although the plants have changed a little bit temporarily. So this is a space with which my colleagues are fairly familiar. I work from home much of the time, and this is the space I'm sharing as my personal space, but it becomes very much a professional space as well. So in therapy context, blending of the multiple physical and non-physical places in case of online art therapy happens. And this creates a shared experience between the clients and therapists. It's quite a unique situation, and I would like to share with you some of my reflections on how this sharing of spaces might happen in online art therapy. And I will give as an example, particularly a recent project in the Western Isles of Scotland. So I really got interested in the subject of online art therapy quite a while ago, about 20 years ago, at the time when I was working in Aberdeen at the Royal Conf Hospital. It's a mental health hospital. And I met a patient there who benefited from online art therapy immensely. This patient suffered from recurring depression and was transported actually on a helicopter from Shetland quite regularly to Aberdeen to receive treatment. So, you know, this patient seemed to benefit particularly from art therapy, which was then delivered at within the hospital setting. But then as soon as they came back home to Shetland, the therapy stopped for them. So, you know, this got me really thinking about whether we could deliver art therapy online to people like this patient who might not be able to access therapy face to face. And obviously times have changed in this 20 years, and there are art therapists now in Shetland. But situation still for rural Scotland primarily is quite complex, and art therapy services are not really delivered frequently in rural and more remote areas. So they mostly are centered in the central belt in Scotland, so around Edinburgh and Glasgow. Although obviously the example of Teapot Trust work is really amazing here, because you are obviously reaching out to other areas, which is fantastic. So I'd like to tell you about the pathway which I created to examine this notion of online art therapy in research terms. And to me, this meant exploring initially the literature on the subject, then trying to understand practitioners' perspective before moving on to researching more and learning more about what clients think about online art therapy. So these three areas are actually three distinctive research projects that I would like to tell you about today, but they are very much interconnected. And I'll mostly speak about the third one because it's the most practical example of what actually can happen in online art therapy, and yeah, just to discuss if it could be beneficial for people. So despite my long-term interest in this area, it was not really until 2020 when I first got a chance to research this subject properly, and I got to synthesize literature on the relationship between art therapy and digital technology in terms of both online delivery of therapy, but also in terms of using digital media in art therapy practice. So this time only coincidentally actually aligned with the COVID pandemic. And at this point, it was all, to me, this research was all about ambivalence. So I found in literature of the last 20 years that there were two generally opposing tendencies in the art therapy community in terms of art therapists' views on online practice. There seemed to have been an appreciation of the opportunities that digital technology brings to practice, but also this was combined with a little bit of resistance in art therapists. And this was purely because they were concerned about ethics and confidentiality and other aspects that technology inevitably brings to art therapy practice and that needs to be considered. So this work on reviewing literature has moved for me into conducting a survey among art therapists to find out really from their practice about their views and perspective. And in this work, the word transition was really important. I think it was all about transitioning, mostly due to the pandemic, but all about transitioning from face-to-face to online practice in the art therapy community, which actually happened with unprecedented speed in 2020. And this was often against own preference of therapists. So this was quite a complex time for therapists to work in. And so we surveyed art therapists practicing in the UK. We received nearly 100 responses. And in this survey, what was really interesting in the summer of 2020 was that we found that 90% of respondents had been actually working online at this time, of whom 87% have only been doing this since March 2020. So you can see it was a very fresh mode of working for art therapists at this time, and quite a rapid transition that they needed to adjust to. And interestingly, in a similar survey, which was conducted about 15 years earlier in the US, the researchers found that none of the art therapists actually worked online at this time. So we can see the change in times and the use of digital technology was quite rapid. So at this time, it became apparent that therapists actually needed really needed more guidance in terms of how to work in virtual spaces safely with clients, how to do it most meaningfully. And here are some words that art therapists from my survey used to describe their experience and their feelings towards working online. So you can see it's again a lot about ambivalence, a lot about transition, a lot about curiosity and opportunities that online practice might bring, but also some words that describe uncertainty and a little bit of potentially more challenging feelings connected with this. So in this research, there was one aspect still missing, quite important aspect, I think, actually absolutely vital, and this was client perspective. In the research so far, the therapist's perspective was shining through, but we knew very little about the client's perspective. So an opportunity to gain a little bit of insight into client experiences and what they feel, how they feel as online art therapy participants arose in Western Isles to me. So thanks to the support from NHS Western Isles and a large European project called Empower, we were able to develop a new online art therapy service for adult residents in Western Isles. So this was a pilot project, a small project, but it gave us quite a lot of insights about online practice. So I think context here is quite important. I mentioned Shetland to you earlier, and this project happened in the Western Isles. For those of you who are maybe not familiar with the geography of Scotland, this is where it is. So quite a remote and rural areas. I think there are currently only 2 art therapists practicing in Western Isles, but also they need to travel quite a lot to see their clients face to face. So the distances in Western Isles are really quite vast. And I know that they quite often spend an hour or 2 hours in a car. So online art therapy is really useful in places like this. So we advertised this project through community organizations and art groups and art organizations as well in the Western Isles. And the therapy in this project was offered as a block of 8 weekly sessions. I know, Zoe, you mentioned that 8 is really short-term therapy, might not necessarily be that effective as a longer one, but this is only the resource we had. So we needed to stick with this brief, solution, which we quite often need to do in both practice and research. And digital equipment and art materials were provided to participants. So this was very much appreciated. So the participants had a chance to try both traditional arts media working online, but also to try digital art making working on iPads. So that this was for their choice to make together with their therapist. We had 2 therapists working on the projects and 8 clients took part in therapy. The project was evaluated quite comprehensively for the small scale of the project, but we used many evaluation methods, qualitative, quantitative, and also art-based methods, including questionnaires, focus groups, interviews, and a specific method called audio image recordings. I'll come back to this method later on. So the aim was really for me as a researcher to understand which methods work also best, which give us more information, most information about client and therapist experiences, and which are acceptable by clients and therapists. I think in research it's really important that we use methods that do not impose, burden on participants and clients. This is mostly important that they benefit from therapy. So it's quite crucial how the research is designed, and this was a sort of an opportunity for me to test various methods as well. So in terms of experiences of our clients in the therapy, they generally found it an enjoyable experience. Both clients and therapists valued the flexibility and convenience of working online. And clients agreed to varying degrees that the experience of art therapy was helpful, worthwhile, interesting, but they also said it was challenging and surprising. And some of the participants commented with adjectives that were not on the list that they could choose from. They added their own, and they used words like relaxing, thought-provoking, enlightening, fulfilling, revealing of different perspectives, but also they said it was a safe and nurturing space. And clients who had previously had experience of psychological therapies, they appreciated the opportunity for nonverbal expression. And to some people, it felt less restrictive and relieving pressure of having to be precise when describing very complex feelings and problems. They also highlighted that art therapy offered a more personal and dialogue encouraging and person-centered approach than what they experienced by seeing a doctor or a psychiatrist. So it was very much appreciated by participants. And the three quite distinctive but interconnected themes have clearly emerged from how people described what art therapy was for them. And they have described this experience as a judgment-free zone, a safe space for self-exploration, a space which allowed freedom to experiment, to express, to feel, and to immerse themselves in the creative flow. So I think these are the features of art therapy that normally we expect to see in face-to-face situations. And I think this project has confirmed that they were also present in an online situation, which is quite obviously a positive outcome for us. There were also lots of other benefits for psychological well-being that participants and therapists have observed in this pilot. So the clients reported changes such as acceptance of emotions and things that cannot be controlled, better understanding of self, increased confidence, improved resilience, a newly gained perspective on aspects of life, and also improved relationships. This was quite a surprising outcome, quite unexpected. But two actually participants mentioned that because they shared the process of art therapy with their relatives, they found it much easier to communicate with them, and they found that the relatives were more understanding of their psychological needs and emotions. So this was really interesting. And a very unique method which we used in this project was a method called audio image recordings. This is a unique method for art therapy developed by an art therapist and researcher, Neil Springham. And this method is about recording a prompted discussion between a therapist and a client. So this is run by a therapist, not a researcher. And this is quite an intimate space where they two discuss the images that the client had created in therapy. So those are then recorded, edited a little bit, and available as videos of between 5 and 10 minutes usually, as a sort of testimony of what the therapy process was like for the persons involved. So this is not only a research method, this is also a method that provides a reflective space for both clients and therapists, and it provides a unique method of recording progress for both. What was really interesting in this project was that one client was so particularly touched by the video that they had created with their art therapist that they wanted to respond with another recording, another video as a response to the video that they had seen. For them, hearing themselves actually describing their experiences of depression in this particular case was so powerful, and they allowed them to take a step back and actually observe their own state from a little bit outside. I think that this particular person found this experience very, very therapeutic in itself. So we can see how research methods, if they are matched well to the particular people we try to gather information from and gain understanding from, they can actually be quite therapeutic as well. And this is what I'm striving to do in my research, to trying to adapt the methods so that they are as therapeutic as they can be. So in this pilot, all of the participants actually felt that more people would be interested in art therapy if this was available to them. Staff participants who are referring clients to therapy, they felt that there were not many other services in the Western Isles that would be able to meet the clients' needs as well as the therapy provided in this pilot. So I feel that the project, despite its small scale, demonstrated quite well that online art therapy was not only a feasible option, and this was an acceptable intervention for people, it was also an impactful one. And capable of instilling positive change in surprisingly short period of time, actually, as we're coming back to this only 8-week period, which actually the people who designed the intervention, including myself, I think we all were quite surprised, how this short time created a positive change. What was really important for me as well, and which has inspired my future thoughts about research, and the most needed research in the area, was that there was a clear evidence of the therapeutic process developing in online setting. So even if it was a time-limited situation, we could clearly see that both the triangular relationship, which is unique for art therapy, because it's a relationship between the therapist and the client, but also the artwork, so that was very much present in these online spaces, and it was possible to navigate those online spaces to still create, therapeutic and triangular relationships which were beneficial for clients. And actually, connecting in online spaces creates some subtle shifts within the triangular relationship between the client, the therapist, and the artwork. And while the therapist and the client are geographically separated, the client remains particularly connected and co-present with the art. And this is what the therapist felt happened in this project, and actually clients have confirmed. So we're feeling that because the client connection with the art is emphasized, the physical connection between the client and the therapist, the lack of physical connection might in fact affect art therapy less than verbal forms of psychotherapy when it is conducted online. So I think this is quite an important potential avenue for future investigation about what is specific about online art therapy in comparison to other psychotherapies, and mostly verbal psychotherapies, and what we can actually utilize in terms of the connection with the image that makes this therapy work. So I'd like to share two quotes from therapists with you now, and they are very different quotes and describing a very different experience of working online. Just so that you can hear from therapists that they might have very different experiences and visions of whether art therapy online works or not. And this is obviously not a solution that suits all clients and all situations. And I feel it's important to highlight that for some clients, for some situations, it's a wonderful thing to be doing, to connecting online. For others, it might not work. And the same for therapists. Some therapists are very comfortable and can work in this virtual space, while others potentially not that much so. So I think it's important to consider. So one therapist responding to the survey said the three-dimensional space is reduced to two-dimensional digital screen. It's the flattening of spatiality and the environment that they had experienced online, which you see describes the challenges for this therapist in connecting online with clients. While actually another therapist who took part in the pilot project in the Western Isles, they said something like this: there is something about the kind of tightness and smallness of the space that sort of intensifies everything somehow. And it doesn't really feel like a flat screen. When the connection is good, it feels very three-dimensional, like a capsule. So this is obviously a very contradicting experience of an art therapist who actually felt that the therapeutic connection with the client was perhaps even intensified in these online spaces. So we can see different experiences. And to me, as a researcher, it's just important to see those, to be able to adapt on therapeutic approaches. So with obviously growing experience and confidence and research in online art therapy, and art therapists working more and more with digital technology, I feel that we are naturally moving beyond replicating face-to-face situations in this virtual worlds, but we are actually exploring the connecting virtually and online as a new territory that actually provides new opportunities for therapeutic process to develop. And I think it's an exciting place to be. And we need to be mindful of all the challenges that are linked with digital technologies and online connectivity. But I feel that we also should be trying to see into the future And just as Janus, as a Roman god of transitions and beginnings, he's often pictured with two faces. And this is an image by John Bellamy, a Scottish artist. And I feel that just as Janus, as this Roman god, we should be seeing into the past and taking from the online, from the art therapy tradition, using face-to-face practice and traditional materials, but also seeing into the future and exploring the realm of online work and the use of digital technologies. So there are just some references for you, which I'm sure we'll be able to share later with those of you who would like to follow up on this and have a look into recent research on this subject. And it's been really a privilege to capture a glimpse of this freshness of online experience for both therapists and the clients in those last couple of years, and I hope to be venturing more into the still uncharted territory of the impact that online work can produce for clients and the communities, actually. So thank you very much. I'd like to invite you as well to connect with me for an extended discussion if you would like to. Thank you.